Until the End by Strumfrake. When you've loved someone your whole life, since childhood, and had the luck of them loving you back for almost 2 years, you strive to make them happy. Sometimes things go wrong, and things happen at the least appropriate of times against lovers' wills, and they can't be held accountable for what they don't foresee. But how they react is entirely of their own accord. It can often be resolved as a certain mishap, but for Lyra and Bonbon, having built their relationship on a foundation of trust, certain events can affect them much, much more than most others. "Bonbon, wait!" Lyra cried, running into the door after her mare friend. "I can't believe you'd do this to me!" Bonbon screamed. Lyra flinched at her tone out of fear. Nothing made her feel worse than when she upset Bonbon. But certain events were worse than others, and what Bonbon had seen couldn't have been a worse moment for Lyra to try to explain. "Bonbon, listen to me. You didn't see what you thought you saw." Lyra started trying to defend herself. "What, so you weren't kissing that bitch Carrot Top? Then what the hay were you doing with your lips, huh?" Bonbon asked furiously. "That's not what happened. She kissed me. I practically threw her at the wall for it," Laura retorted. "Well, you took your bucking time to do it." "What I saw through the window was clear enough," Bonbon yelled again. "But it wasn't what you thought you saw. She invited me to her party and asked to speak with me alone. How was I supposed to know she had the hots for me?" Lyra asked defensively. "Oh, well, you should have seen something coming when she didn't invite both of us. You didn't look like you put up much of a fight," Bonbon yelled, tears beginning to fill her eyes. "When I went into this relationship with you, you told me you'd never do anything like this to me. I made the decision. I did, because I thought I could trust and love you," Bonbon cried. Lyra's heart was aching to hear Bonbon in this sort of agony, and was also beginning to cry, dreading the worst outcome of the argument. Bonbon had never been this upset with her in her life. "You can trust and love me, Bonbon. I wouldn't have done anything to hurt you, and you know it. You saw less than 2 seconds through a window, what hardly lasted any longer than 3. I can't blame you for being upset or not wanting to see any more of it, but you have to believe me," Lyra begged, getting more and more deeply upset. Bonbon wanted to believe her. She wanted the fighting to end, but her tears were blurring the truth in Lyra's emotion and washing away the trust she had held for her in her heart since they fell in love. "Did it mean anything?" Bonbon asked. "What, the kiss?" "No, of course not. It was nothing," Lyra stammered. "Then why were you blushing?" Bonbon asked. "What?" Lyra asked, confused. "When I saw you kissing her, you were blushing," Bonbon accused. "She kissed me. She was giving me all compliments and trying to put on a charm. I thought she was trying to be nice. Didn't expect her to throw herself at me," Lyra stammered again. "Oh, what, like the night we fell in love?" Bonbon shot back, piercing Lyra in the heart. More tears started to form in her eyes. "How could you compare that night to this? That night was the most magical night of either of our lives. What happened between me and Carrot Top meant nothing. Bonbon, I never let you down before. Why won't you believe me now?" Lyra asked, feeling as though she was about to collapse under her emotions. Unable to think straight or pay attention, Bonbon reluctantly made a heart-racking decision. "I don't think I can right now. I need to think about this alone. I've lost too much trust already, and I can't get the thought out of my head that you might have started to think less of me or us as a couple," Bonbon said miserably, struggling to get out the whole sentence while her aching heart was practically screaming at her to reconsider what she was about to do. "Bonbon, wait! Think about this for 1 second, please. I love you more than anything. I could never think any less of you. Please don't leave me over this." Lyra begged for her to think her decision through. She had dropped at Bonbon's hooves, and her eyes were streaming a puddle of tears around her hooves. Bonbon wanted the arguing to stop, but the fact that she'd already seen what she'd she'd seen had completely ruined everything she held in her heart and mind. Whenever she tried to believe Lyra, all she could see in her mind was Lyra and Carrot Top kissing, as if the memory was attempting to haunt her thoughts. "I don't want to leave you, Lyra, but I can't help but feel there's a lack of trust between us," Bonbon said, her tears trailing down her face to join Lyra's on the floor. Bonbon looked at the door and back at Lyra, who only stared back pleadingly, with wet, bloodshot red eyes. She couldn't bear the choice she was faced with for much longer. She was at the point of a mental and emotional breakdown. "I'm sorry, Lyra. I just need some time," Bonbon mumbled through a sputter and cough. She turned around and walked over to the door, knowing that being around Lyra would only make her ache more. Lyra couldn't move. Her heart was falling apart, and her legs were limp and weak. "Bonbon, no, please don't leave me." Bonbon was reluctant to look back at Lyra. "Bonbon, I'm sorry," Lyra continued to beg. "Please," she cried out one last time as Bonbon opened the door. Bonbon shot one more depressed look at Lyra, who started to curl on the floor as if she was about to explode. Bonbon let out a cry before running out the door, wishing in her head that none of it had happened. Lyra lay on the floor, coughing and crying. All she could think about was Bonbon and how much she wished she could take everything back. "Bonbon, I can't live without you. Please come back," she whimpered, curling up into her tears, hoping Bonbon could hear her. The days that followed the pair's argument were fraught with heartache and despair. Never had Lyra had always wanted Bonbon to be at home with her, but the feeling had never hurt so much in her life. She spent so much of her time crying and waiting for the one pony she loved to come home. But each day passed, and she became more desperate and depressed. Days began to approach. A fortnight since, Bonbon had walked out and left Lyra in a mess of emotional distress. She'd had more than enough time to think to herself, but she didn't know what would happen if she returned to Lyra after the amount of time she'd been gone. The longer she waited, the more concerned she became. So many thoughts rose in her head. What if she doesn't want me back? What if she's found some pony new? What if she's not even there if I go back? The negative thoughts continued to roll through, but she'd never forgive herself if she didn't go back. She'd gone all the way to Canterlot to get away from the troubles of home, but even the city she was born in brought her no comfort. Every spot in Ponyville reminded her of memories with Lyra, and she continued to reflect on memories in spite of where she was though, and regardless of whether she could properly trust Lyra again by her word. She loved her and she missed her. Luckily, Bonbon was close to the Canterlot train station and had a few bits left that could get her a ticket back to Ponyville. As the train was only minutes from departure, as she stepped into the carriage, Bonbon started to wonder if she'd made the wrong decision from the start and if she overreacted. She tried not to think about that though, and only thought about Lyra and if she'd be okay when she got back. Lyra was not faring so well back in Ponyville. She hadn't left home since Bonbon left, and wouldn't dare leave on the chance that Bonbon might return. She'd been too depressed to keep the place clean and looked after. There was some shattered glass in one corner from something she knocked over in a fit of tears, and scraps of food she couldn't finish in the kitchen. The floor was stained with tears in several areas, where she'd often been so distraught and desperate for Bonbon to return that she'd fallen asleep crying there. There were small grooves in the floor in areas she had often trotted on when thinking. As much as it hurt her, she'd often reflect on the past. But that was all she could do, apart from cry and hope Bonbon would come back. She couldn't even use her magic properly, since most of her brain power was used thinking about Bonbon. Levitation seemed to be the only magical ability she still possessed. Two memories stood out to her most, the ones that she treasured and always would treasure, their meeting as fillies in school, and that night their relationship began almost 2 years ago. Her eyes had been practically glowing with red since Bonbon left, which over so many days was becoming quite painful. Lyra walked over to a bench in the house, intent on finding something, but she wouldn't be sure what it was until she found it. As she walked towards the drawer, she tripped, and instead went tumbling into it, smashing it and collapsing onto the floor. She didn't lift her face from the mess, though, and only laid her head in shame and cried. In her emotional state, the smallest mistake seemed to bring out the worst in her. Lyra looked forward at one of the smashed objects that had fallen out of the drawer before it broke on the ground. Her favourite picture of her and Bonbon lay in a cracked frame on the ground in front of her. She was instantly forced to relieve the memories that had been haunting her mind and causing her depression again. Bonbon too thought as she waited on the train, which had now departed and was now on its way to Ponyville, and would arrive very soon. She had nothing to do until the train arrived, which would likely be by sundown, in a few hours, and in her mind recounted the moments of her childhood when she met Lyra, and the night when she made her fall in love with her.